What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the blog. This is Yuri, and this is episode number 6. Tonight, we're talking about how to train like an athlete. Such a fascinating topic to me. I grew up playing a lot of different sports, started out as a swimmer, transitioning into playing basketball, and my bread and butter will always be soccer. I miss soccer, I used to play a lot. But throughout this journey, I really learned a lot about discipline, training, and myself, quite frankly. And one thing that I wanted to talk to you about is how do we go about training like an athlete? I think it's fair to say that many people admire athletes, and for good reasons. They have incredible physiques, they have incredible focus, they have very determined will, if you will, if you will. There are a lot of different qualities to admire in athletes. And of course, physical prowess is one of those qualities, right? We look up to them in terms of how strong they are, how fast they are, how agile they are. And we want to be able to mimic those qualities in our own training and achieve those same results. So, how can we? Let's start with that question. Obviously, professional athletes possess incredible amount of resolve and determination. I would say more than a regular person. It's fair to say, right? With that being said, just because you're a regular person and you're not an athlete, it does not mean that you can take a page out of the athlete's book and incorporate some of these qualities and traits into your own training. So let's take a look at some of these things. Athletes spend a lot of time working on their bodies. They really particular about their nutrition. They're particular about their training regimen, how many times a day they train, and they're very particular about how they train, how hard they train, and how intelligently they train. So they're working on their craft day in and day out. A normal or not normal, a regular person who has a full-time job, for example, would be hard pressed to have even a similar type of approach to training. We simply don't have time nor determination probably to train that way. However, as I mentioned, we can take bits and pieces and to incorporate this knowledge into our own workout regimen. I think one of the most valuable aspect of athletes training and approach to physical activity is what I refer to as incentive training. I don't know if this term exists per se. I did not research it, I'll be honest with you. But what I mean by incentive training is ability to focus on activity at hand while playing a particular sport or competing in particular discipline. So let me give you an example. Growing up, I played soccer practically every day. And when I played soccer, I really loved running with the ball, dribbling the ball, scoring the goals, self expression of ability to do trick moves and fake defenders and things of that nature. Every time I would play soccer, yes, I would be tired, but I would not feel physical activity the same extent at the same rate as if I was running, for example. If I was just going for a run, it would be completely different. So it made me think a lot about why it occurs. And then I had an aha moment. At some point, a few years ago, I had an aha moment. And that's the reason I call it incentive training, is because this type of approach to training, when you play in a sport or when you're reaching for a specific goal, very specific goal, it places a different type of demand on your brain. It places different type of goals, for the lack of the better word, that you're trying to fulfill in that particular moment. And as a result, it seems that your physical exertion kind of fades on the background. So you can probably think of time when you were doing a physical activity and you did not feel tired, or you did not even notice how much time went by, right? So those are the things that I'm talking about. I don't think it's the same as being in the zone, quite frankly. I just think that it's being able to focus on things within the physical activity. So, additional examples: dribbling basketball, playing defense, catching a frisbee disc, chasing a dog, um, trying to finish first in 100 meters run. So, all these different examples assume that you are focusing on this outcome first, and then the physical exertion comes as a result of that. So, how can we apply that? How can we apply that in our training? Well, first thing, what what kind of activity, what kind of regimen, what kind of sport perhaps sets your soul on fire? And when I say set your soul on fire, I mean that's more than you just liking this activity. You are ready to go after it with everything you have. You really love it. You love it so much that you are willing to go and play frisbee maybe for 2 hours one day, right? Or play basketball for an hour and a half at YMCA or any other place that will allow you to play pickup basketball, right? Or play soccer with your friends on that field for 2.5 hours. Those type of things I'm talking about. I'm talking about really truly feeling passion for that activity, wanting to do it. So that's number one. Well, some of you might think, well, I don't have that type of activity. Now what? What am I going to do? Pick one, create one. Think back to your childhood, something that you've done that you really enjoyed, or at least you were curious about. Build on curiosity if you don't have an answer in your head as far as what activity you truly love and embrace at this present moment. The other aspect that super imperative is your comparative spirit, the ability to compete with other individuals within that sport or activity. And if you are not competitive type of person, then the ability to compete with yourself. So example of that would be maybe doing rowing, right? So random but works. So maybe you do rowing for 1 mile. Maybe you're going to do row on the rowing machine. You don't have to be on water necessarily. Maybe you're going to be indoors on a rowing machine and you're going for 1 mile. And maybe the first time you did it in 5 minutes. Next time you're trying to go for 4 minutes, 50 seconds. And that's the way you can compete with yourself. You have different options. All of us have different options as to how to approach a physical activity. To me, I've always been into sports. I've always been passionate about playing team sports, and it made me feel not only physically equipped, it also made me feel like I was expressing myself and having fun. So I want to encourage you to do the same thing. Find one or two things that you really feel passionate about and that you see yourself doing with a group of your friends or by yourself, and then incorporate this incentive training in a way that will allow you to kind of be in a zone, in a way that will allow you to focus on accomplishing a certain goal within that activity, and they will continue to push forward. And that in itself will ensure that you're not focusing on how much time you spend doing that or how tired you are, but rather focusing on an outcome. And that makes all the difference in the world. I hope it makes sense to you. I hope that I express my thoughts succinctly enough that you truly can see how impactful it could be approaching a physical activity from a standpoint of an incentive training. And I really hope that you will give it a shot and go play one of those sports or do one of these activities with that mind shift, with coming from a perspective of competition and reaching for a specific outcome first, and see if you can really get to a point where you can be in the zone, where you can be in the flow state, where you will not feeling the exertion, but rather really embrace the activity and train like an athlete, experience it as a professional athlete almost. We're all capable of doing it. We all have the tools, and I think it's so cool to try it and see what happens. As always, I hope that this was useful to you. These are just my thoughts. These are just my thoughts. So, as always, I'm looking for your feedback, I'm looking for your comments, and I hope that you have a great week. And as always, be well and never stop learning, my friends.